everyone, and welcome to Zolder. We are in Belgium. The sun is shining. It's a little chilly, but we're not complaining about the weather. And we're super excited. It's the 7th race weekend, and we are so ready for the qualifying. This is the man to watch out for, Robin Freins. He's already sat in the car. He's only 18 points behind Nico Muller, and of course Nico Muller is leading the championship at the moment. But Robin really is picking up the points, so keep your eyes on this one. And of course we're looking forward to a very exciting qualifying. So now everyone, here's your commentator. Enjoy.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Hello everybody, good morning. It's Zolder. We're back in action after a 3-week break from the double header at the Nürburgring. And this is the first part of another double header because it's 2 back-to-back weekends here at Zolder. And then in a few weeks' time, in November, in the winter, we'll be racing at Hockenheim for the season finale. And so just 3 more weekends to go in this 2020 DTM season.
We have anyway quite some braking activity here. And from the temperatures, we looked okay yesterday. Copy. So we will queue in 30 seconds. You can prepare for engine start. Stand by, wait a second.
So their team radio from Nico Muller, the championship leader, as Verena said, by 18 points from Robin Freins. And the next René Rast, 47 points behind. This man third in the championship standings.
9, 8,
getting the countdown
7,
now, ready for the start of what's going to be a 20 minutes qualifying session.
3, 2, 1, go, 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 go.
So cars being released down the pit lane now. 20 minutes to come of qualifying in just a couple of minutes' time. My name's Chris Hartley. I'll talk you through the session and tomorrow's qualifying and both of the races at Zolder this weekend. It's back to Zolder. The last time we were here last season was much earlier in the year. It was the second weekend of the 2019 season back in May. So very different conditions. It's relatively chilly, about 12 degrees. It was damp at the start of the first free practice session yesterday, which disrupted slightly the plans of the drivers in terms of their runs and their longer runs later on in that first free practice session. But the track dried up relatively quickly. It wasn't too damp, but we are surrounded by trees at Zolder, and so a lot of large sections of the circuit are under tree cover and they take longer to dry out, so the racing line dried up fairly quickly, but offline took really till the end of the session. But it was completely dry for the second free practice session, which is held yesterday afternoon at about 4:30 in the late afternoon. But looking at the pictures, the pit lane definitely looks a little bit damp, and some parts of the track damp as well. The first session to go out on the circuit at Zolder, the sun breaking through, but it is a cold autumnal day and it will take some time to get the tyres up to temperature here. The circuit itself is 4 kilometres long. There's the Albert Canal, which is just behind the race circuit. In fact, the third corner is named Canal Corner. That canal is 80 miles long and runs from Liège through to Antwerp, and there you can see the circuit right across, only about 40 or 50 metres from the canal. It's an industrial area, Zolder, with a heritage of hard coal mining. That was a big part of the area's industry and business for over 60 years, from the 1930s through to the early 1990s. But it is also a picturesque part of central Belgium, with many forests in the nearby area and heaths as well. So it's a pretty part of the world. It's a great old school racetrack. It's not the oldest of all racetracks. It was built in 1963, but it has that feel about it, and was a former home to the Formula One Belgian Grand Prix back in the 1970s and 1980s. Hosted the Belgian Formula One Grand Prix 10 times in succession until it moved permanently to Spa-Francorchamps, where of course we were also racing with DTM at the start of this year. Very different circuits, but both very challenging in their own ways. This one requires lots of precision. There are several chicanes around the lap which need to be attacked. It's quite an undulating circuit as well, lots of ups and downs, particularly particularly in the first sector. The run through from turn 6 and 7 down the hill up over the crest is particularly eye-catching, and it's also relatively narrow at certain points. So fairly hard on the tyres, fairly hard on the brakes, and we saw one or two drivers, including René Rast yesterday in the free practice session, get it slightly wrong and going through the gravel, although he recovered and put in a good lap time after that. So the car's heading out for the qualifying session. Yesterday we had 2 free practice sessions, one for 45 minutes and the other for 30, and it was Robin Frijns who topped the times in both of those sessions. He set a time in session 1 of 1 minute 20.075 seconds and was 0.3 quicker than René Rast, with Mike Rockenfeller going well in that first free practice session, 3rd quickest. Muller was 4th, Jamie Green was 5th, and Ferdinand Habsburg was 6th. And then Robin Frijns managed to top the times in the second free practice session as well, which was a little bit quicker with a completely dry track, but Robin didn't go that much quicker. He got straight down to the pace in the first session, really. In the second session, although the track seemed quicker, he was only about a 10th quicker as team members, mechanics there doing their morning stretches, warming up, getting ready for the first competitive session of the weekend. Robert Kubica heading out on track. He'll be looking to follow on from his good qualifying form at the Nürburgring around the sprint version of the circuit last time out, where he got his best qualifying session in DTM so far and posted the 7th quickest time, ran in 6th place in the early stages of the race, and then unfortunately a gearbox problem put him out on lap 8. Somebody else that could do some good points this weekend is Jamie Green. He's just gone through shot. There's René Rast, and our first look at the circuit, and it is definitely damp out there, which is going to make for a very interesting session. That's much damper than it was for free practice yesterday, where there were damp patches but also dry patches on the circuit. But the overnight rain has left a fair amount of, I wouldn't say standing water, but it's got patches of it off racing line. When they went out for free practice yesterday, they were the 2nd session on track after the Porsche Beneluxes had their free practice session, so they'd mopped some of the surface water up, but the car's running around on slick tyres with close to 600 brake horsepower. This is going to be tricky. So it's a case of mopping up the surface water now. Takes some time to get the heat into these tyres anyway, and it's going to be even more so in these cool conditions and with the track as it is. So in ideal conditions, we're looking at a high 1 minute 19, 1:19.926, the best time of the weekend so far. Loic Duval went very well in the second session yesterday and was only 0.05 of a second slower than Robin Frijns. He got in the 1:19s as well. Wet tyres at the ready. Could be a way to go this, particularly in the first part of the session. René Rast went much quicker in the second free practice. He went 0.3 quicker than he'd gone in the first session, so he did a very low 1:20 to be 3rd quickest in session 2. And Muller, although he was 4th again in session 2, was also very close. He was only a 10th away from Robin Frijns with the best time in the session. And in terms of long run pace, as we look forward to the race, Robin struggled yesterday in the first free practice session. He did around about 15 laps, and his pace really dropped off in the last 5 or 6 laps of that session. But everybody else was able, or all of his rivals at least, Rockenfeller as well, Frijns seemed to drop off much more in terms of the pace that he had. Rast and Muller was able to keep it going in the low 1:22s, at 2 seconds off the qualifying type pace. But into the 1:24s went Robin, but he corrected that in the second free practice session, and his long run pace was good as well. So the early benchmark time, and it is an early benchmark time, is set by Jamie Green. The 2 Team Rosberg Audis have gone through across the line to set times of 1 minute 36.095. 1:36.239 for Green, 1:36.960, but Rockenfeller and Frijns have gone quicker, particularly Frijns actually. He seems to get straight down to business whenever there are damp conditions. He's done a 1:34.8, but this is 15 seconds slower than he went in the dry conditions in free practice 2 yesterday. Just 1 or 2 drier patches starting to form here and there, but it's going to be the end of the session really before that changes. Track limits warning already. That's for Fabio Scherer, who's looking for his first points in the DTM. And there René Rast, who needs a good weekend here, but he's been looking in good form so far. He hasn't topped the times, but he's been right up there. He's closed the gap in the second free practice session, and he's looked good on the long run pace as well. Robin Freins has set the absolute best in the first sector, a 28.6, but René Rast has gone quicker than anybody so far in the second sector with a 34.7. Jamie Green 0.2 slower than René Rast in that second sector, but he was half a second quicker in the first sector. So overall, Green's on for a faster lap so far than his teammate. And this could be putting him top of the times. It does for now. 1 minute 33.789, but Robin Freins is going to go quicker. He's set the absolute best in the first 2 sectors of the lap. Rast goes second. We've got Loic Duval and Mike Rockenfeller to come through next, the 2 Team Phoenix drivers, as they cross the line. Rockenfeller, the quicker of the 2, and quicker than anybody so far with a 133.244. This, though, should be the time. Robin Freins about to come through to cross the line, and it's much quicker, 131.581 seconds. Terrific lap from Robin in the circumstances, and that has given him absolute bests in all 3 of the sectors around this 4-kilometre long circuit. So the windmills in the background gently turning, a gentle breeze here. Another cancellation of lap times, this time for Harrison Newey. More cars go through, and Muller's on a good first sector, but Robin Freins has gone quicker. So very briefly, Muller, who's slightly ahead on the track of Robin Freins, set the absolute best first sector time, 28.482 seconds. But 300ths quicker was Robin Freins, 28.452 seconds. Green's gone quicker than anybody in the second sector. And you're watching Jamie now. 205 DTM race starts to his name, up in the top 6 of the all-time starters. 17 times a race winner in the DTM. Robin Freins waiting for him to come through the second sector time. It's a 33.9, so he's about a 1/10 down on Jamie Green in the second sector. But he was half a second quicker in the first sector, which is very impressive. So overall, Robin looks like he might improve his lap here. Jamie's going to put a good lap in, though, and he could well go to the top of the times, at least briefly. It's Freins, Green, Rast, the top 3. Muller in third, Muller in fourth, Rockenfeller fifth. Philip Eng, who was a race winner here last year, winning the second place at Zolder, his best weekend so far in DTM. He's up there in the top 6 as well, or he was, because Loic Duval has just gone into 6th place. So Robin Freins comes through, and he backed off through the final sector. It was a good start to the lap. Absolute best in sector 1, personal best in sector 2. Muller's been off the road on his onboard camera there, and look how low the sun is in the eyes as well. And that was a big understeer off through the gravel trap. And that is the problem. Slick tyres, cold track, damp track. You turn the wheel and nothing happens. So it looks like it was through turn 1. He went over the line, and here we go. Turns in. It's not happening, it's not responding. Scrubs quite a bit of the speed off through turn 1.
Okay. Copy, you have Robin behind you.
And keeps it going through the gravel trap. I won't do the tyres too much good. Robin Freins absolute best in the first sector. René Rast absolute best in the second sector. Rast is further ahead on the lap. So these two looking to improve. Muller's quickest, 130.875 before all the drama. So that often happens, doesn't it? You set your best time and then you go off, push a bit too hard at the start of the next lap. Jamie Green's gone through with a 134, slower lap from him. His best is a 131.689. Robin Freins absolute best in the second sector as well. Marco Wittmann's had a lap time cancelled. Loic Duval's just improved, but he's in 7th place out of the top 6. Here comes Robin Freins. This should be the new benchmark time, and it is 1 minute 30.035 seconds. Muller stays out after he's off at the start of that lap. So just behind Robin Freins, the top 2 in the championship, pretty much together on the circuit. 1 minute 30.035 then, and Mike Rockenfeller's got into the 130s, and so too Muller on the previous lap. So Rockenfeller has split the 2 key championship contenders. He's gone second, and he set the absolute best in the first sector as well. It's a very good first sector, 28.014 seconds. That's a couple of tenths quicker than anybody's gone through, I think, that first sector so far. Here is Mike Rockenfeller then in the Phoenix car, the 2013 champion. Still comfortable enough to attack the curbs, even though they look shiny and slippery with the damp that's upon them. And waiting for him to cross the beam through the second sector time to see if that's a good one as well. It's a personal best, 33.362. René Rast has set the absolute best just now through that second sector, but it was only 0.04 of a second quicker, and Mike was 0.4 quicker in the first sector. So Rockenfeller's on for the better lap here. Waiting for Jamie Green to come through. He looks like he's on an improved lap as well. 1 minute 31.145. It's his best lap, but he stays in 5th position. Rast has gone second, and Mike Rockenfeller could be about to go to the top of the times. Here he is, 1:29.700 by 0.3 of a second. Rocky goes onto provisional pole position. Robin Freins in second, René Rast third, Muller fourth. By now, they'd normally have all come in and changed or been in the process of changing tyres and looking at the data, but there's no point at the moment because the track is drying out. You've got to be out there, not really killing the tyres because they're being cooled by the damp surface here. Less friction upon them. René Rast has gone absolute best in the first sector now. It's getting quicker and quicker with each and every lap. It's almost going to be who's the last one over the line at the end of this session. Fascinating stuff. 9.5 minutes to go. But René Rast has gone 0.2 quicker than anybody so far through that first sector. He's found something. A little bit roughshod over the curbs. Through the chicane he goes. On the way through the Gilles Villeneuve chicane, it looked a little bit hairy, but looks good now as he heads towards the next right-hander coming through the second sector. Rast has done a 33.3, which is not a personal best. It's okay, but he'll need a really good final sector to get himself up onto the front row of the grid. Look, Duval's failed to manage track limits. It's not surprising, really, given the conditions that one or two of them are failing to manage the track limits. Coming at them through the final chicane, the Jackie X chicane, and over the line comes René Rast. What's it going to be? It's good enough. 28.2 in the final sector was a personal best, and the overall lap time is a 1:29.4. So he's 0.3 quicker than Rockenfeller. Robin Freins has got in the 1:29s as well. He's third quickest now. Muller fourth, and just coming back out of the pits. Robin Freins has just got into the pits. So Rast and Rockenfeller, the top two are still out. Freins and Muller are not currently setting quick lap times. And then Habsburg is fifth. You're looking at Harrison Newey, first time for him at Zolder, learning the track, the rookie. It's the first time for Robert Kubica as a rookie driver, and it's also the first time for Lucas Auer because they raced here last year, but the time before that was back in 2002, and Lucas Auer wasn't racing in DTM last year, so it's a new experience for him as well. Right, René Rast, 27.867, fractionally better than his first sector on the previous lap, which put him to the top of the times. I think there was room for improvement in the middle of the sector, though. There's still more to come from René, and there's still more to come from the track. Rast goes through, 33.9. Now that's a slow, relatively slow middle sector for Rast. So he might have to regroup on this one. I don't think this is going to be an improvement, even if he has a stellar final sector. Wittmann's come up to fourth place. Newey's come up to fifth. Terrific effort. 1:30.2 for Wittmann, 1:30.6 for Newey. Van der Linde, who was on pole position here for the second race last year and finished fifth, which at the time was his best result in the DTM. He's already in the top six here as well, as René Rast comes into the pits. As I suspected, he's aborted that lap. Right, out they go. And we got gone for wet tyres for Habsburg. Or was it time to think about slick tyres now? Well, that's on slick tyres. Jonathan Aberdeen running a little bit wide, but not too bad. Trying to avoid any contacts with Jamie Green coming alongside him, who is on wet tyres. Rockenfeller comes in. He was on wets, we can now see, and he's going to stay on wets as well. So even though it's drying, not dry enough. Rockenfeller second quickest at the moment at 1:29.7, and the super slow-mo of Rocky doing what? Getting slightly out of shape through one of the chicanes. Last time Mike Rockenfeller was on pole position was at the end of the 2019 season at Hockenheim, where he also got his last race victory. He's just been pushed down to third place by Timo Glock, who's done a 1:29.678. Green flag in turn 12. That means there was a yellow. It means somebody's had a slight off. Wet tyres on Timo Glock's car as well, we can now see from the super slow-mo. There's a bit of a mixed bag out there. I think most of them have stuck to wet tyres. Not too surprising. Oh, and that was Loic Duval. So that was the cause of the yellows down at turn 12. Loic Duval just going straight on. It's not ideal conditions for wet tyres either, really, because there's not that much standing water or surface water. In fact, there's hardly any. Those wet tyres aren't able to work as well as they could. It's that intermittent type, intermediate is what you really need, but they don't have those. It's wet or dry tyres, and that is it. Wittmann's come into the pits now, currently in 5th place as the second best of the BMWs, behind Timo Glock, his brand mate, who is provisionally on the front row of the grid. Riding with him now, the Team RMG driver. Seeming to have to be much more progressive on the brake, on the throttle, wrestling with the wheel as he gets on the gas coming out of the Jackie X chicane. Loic Duval, cancellation of lap time for failing to manage track limits at turn 6. Been off the road big time as well. To the top of the times has gone Glock, 129.333. It was the middle sector that did it for him, absolute best there, and he did a personal best through the final sector as well. So Timo goes top, 129.333, 129.4 for Rast in second, 129.7 for Rockenfeller in third. And then Freins is 4th, Wittmann in 5th, Newey still going really well in 6th, Van der Linde 7th, Muller is down in 8th place currently, Habsburg 9th, Duval in 10th. Less than 4 minutes to go in the session, and there's still a track which is getting drier and drier.
So at the moment,
Wittmann with the wet tyres on.
29.3 stayed out the whole time. Then it's Rast 29.4.
Look at the sparks flying from.
No, now track is clear.
The BMW of Wittmann, absolutely attacking, isn't he? Right, last throw of the dice coming up then for them. Just over 3 minutes to go in this session. We've got Timo Glock currently on provisional pole position. Nico Muller, the championship leader, back in 8th place. Nico's only qualified out of the top 3 once this season. That was a 4th place in the second qualifying session at Assen. So this is going to be his worst qualifying of the year by a long shot if it stays like this. Looking at Sheldon van der Linde. A picture of concentration here. They've got a low sun to deal with. They've got a damp, changeable track, which is drying. And they've just got less than 3 minutes now to put in the perfect lap in the conditions. It's not going to be a perfect lap, but the perfect lap under the circumstances. And Timo Glock, the driver, that is topping it at the moment for BMW. Looking for a BMW pole position. Last pole for Timo Glock was Hockenheim back in 2018. At the start of the 2018 season. Nico Muller then needing to recover. He's a personal best in the middle sector of 33.7, and the first sector was pretty good, 28.3. So it might get him up a few places. Well, only one place, 7th he goes. Still on course for his worst qualifying of the season so far, but it was better. See if we can see the tyres. I think it's wet. Yep, the blue sidewalls, so he's got the wet tyres too. That dry line is coming though. Has anybody braved it and gone for the slicks? Saw Jonathan Aberdeen trying, but he, let's look at Thomas Biermeier, the Sportsline team principal. He's got one car 4th at the moment, Robin Freins, and the other 7th, Nico Muller. A long way down compared to where they normally are. So really important couple of minutes coming up here for the 2 key championship protagonists. And an opportunity for René Rast as well is ahead of both of them, currently 2nd fastest. Right, a couple of improvements coming through the first sector. Personal best for Nico Muller, personal best for Jamie Green, who's down in 11th, personal bests for Engen Aberdeen as well through the first sectors. And an absolute best through sector 1 for René Rast, 27.803. It's only a few thousandths quicker than he'd gone before, but it might make the difference. Got to find a 1/10 of a second over the course of the lap to get onto pole position here. Timo Glock, who's the only driver ahead of him, is not out there flying around at the moment. So an opportunity for René Rast. Can he do it? The middle sector where he's lost out a couple of times relative to the others. The final sector has been very, very good. He's got Sheldon van der Linde just ahead though in the BMW, which is not going to be helpful for him. It's BMW he's trying to get ahead of on the grid to get pole position. And this might ruined the lap for him. Kubica has a lap time taken away. He's got through the second sector with an absolute best as well, but René Rast is still behind the BMW and has to bin off the lap to his frustration, because that was looking good. I'm not saying it would have got him onto pole position, but it would have given him a real shot at it. He's going to get one more chance then, because 15 seconds left on the clock, and Rast goes through, giving himself a bit of a gap, and he'll hope no more cars get in his way now. 131 in the end, because he had to back off through that final sector. Timo Glock did a 27.9 through the first sector, which was a 10th away from the best, but absolute best in the second sector. He's got it wrong there, though, and gets out of shape, gets the back end kicked out, and that's the lap gone. All the time wrestling the wheel, getting it pointed in the right direction through that final chicane, takes the checkered flag. But a bad final sector. Still a 130.9, not a bad effort, but it could have cost him a chance of pole position here. He's on provisional pole at the moment, but René Rast has gone absolute best in the first sector. Robin Freins is up to third place. Absolute best in the final sector. Got to keep an eye on Loic Duval as well. He's down in ninth place, but this is a good lap from him, and he goes fifth. Personal best in the, first sector, and absolute best in the middle sector. Rast is the one to watch, though. 27.7 through the first sector. Muller, sixth place, it's going to be at best for him. René Rast, a personal best through sector 2, 33.1. He's got a chance. He's got to find a 10th of a second. Can René Rast do it? He's the only one now that looks like he's going to be able to topple Timo Glock. No cars in his way this time. Coming in for the final time to the chicane, Jackie Hicks turns left, turns right, gets on the gas, heads for the line and the checkered flag. This is the last chance. Can he get himself on pole position? Yes, 128.987. René Rast has done it with the last throw of the dice by 0.3 of a second as well. Absolutely terrific lap. Timo Glock and BMW are going to be gutted. They almost made it. Still an excellent qualifying for them, but René Rast has pulled it out of the bag. And, well, from the frustration of having to have bought the lap before, he kept his cool, gave himself a gap, and replicated what he'd done before, and then got through that final sector with no traffic.
Please remember the data stick.
17th pole position in DTM for René Rast. 1 minute 28.987, the magic time.
Max has a long way to get to Park Fermé.
Ooh, Rast under investigation for his last lap time for track limits. So there's a question mark over it now. Provisionally, though, he's on pole position, 128.987. Timo Glock, a 129.333, and then Robin Freins third, 129.484. It's turn 9, they're looking at track limits. This, 4 wheels over the curb. The stewards are looking into it. Marco Wittmann has put his BMW 4th, Mike Rockenfeller 5th, Sheldon van der Linde 6th, Nico Muller 7th place, and then Harrison Newey 8th, Lucas Auer 9th. Loic Duval, we were disappointed with 10th place, given how well he went in the driving through practice session 2 yesterday. Philippe Eng 11th, Ferdinand Habsburg 12th.
Lead on the car. Max has a long way to get to Park Fermé.
Copy. So how's the ranking?
So it's you, then it's Glock, Freins, Wittmann, Rocky, van der Linde and Müller.
So you saw the graphic there while we're listening to the team radio. No further action. He's going to keep the lap time. He's not going to squeeze the car in the gap there, so he parks up just behind, and René Rast will secure that much-needed pole position. And with the two ahead of him in the championship, behind him on the grid for race 1, the championship leader, Nico Muller, back in 7th place, his worst qualifying of the year, only his second time out of the top 3, and Robin Freins, he's going to be in 3rd place. It's also, of course, more championship points for René Rast. He's going to get 3 points for that pole position. 2 points will go to Timo Glock for qualifying 2nd, and Robin Freins is going to pick up another championship point as well. and close the gap to 17 points now to Nico Muller. So we'll move on to 225. René Rast will move on to 198 and will be 44 points behind Nico Muller going into this afternoon's race. Their confirmation then of the times and the top 10. René Rast from Timo Glock, Robin Freins 3rd, Marco Wittmann 4th, then Mike Rockenfeller 5th, Sheldon van der Linde 6th, Nico Muller 7th, Harrison Newey will be pleased, I think, with 8th place, Lucas Auer 9th, and Loic de Waal 10th, and then Philip Eng 11th, Ferdinand Habsburg 12th, Jamie Green 13th, and then Aberdeen, Kubica and Scherer 14th, 15th and 16th in the session. So in the end, they all stuck with the wet tyres. Well, most of them stuck with the wet tyres. It was obviously damper than it looked. There was one or two dry patches coming, but nowhere near drying out as quickly as I thought it might after yesterday. I think that's probably partly to do with the fact that it's quite a few degrees cooler than it was when they went out for their first free practice session around about lunchtime yesterday. So I think it was probably getting to a point where they would have been maybe going, slicks might have been going the right way for them in terms of lap times at the end of the session. But what a lap that was from René Rast under all that pressure, and that's why he's a two-time champion in DTM. He's a multiple champion, of course, in other Formula, including, of course, his various championship titles in Porsches. So it's Audis 1 and 3, but a BMW has split them. Very, very good qualifying that from Timo Glock. And he was on provisional pole until the very last second. René Rast coming through. So Timo Glock, he'll be absolutely chuffed with that. He loves the wet conditions, and we can hear from him now speaking with Verena.
It's only P2, but I'm sure he's going to be excited. Timo, you almost had a brilliant qualifying. Now it's only P2, but however, you must be absolutely thrilled.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy to be in P2. I mean, it's a shame that René just dropped me in the last second, but unfortunately, Jamie went off in turn 1 in my last lap, and I had to back off 3/10 due to the yellow flag. And then I had a purple middle sector, I think, and at the end made a mistake in the last chicane. But you know, I'm happy. I think we had the good speed all weekend already in dry conditions even. So yeah, looking forward to the race, and I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable being here again because it's such a long time. No idea what I have to do here. So, but still, I'm looking forward to the race.
We are too, crossing our fingers for you. Thank you very much, Timo. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Verena. Yeah, it's been a long time since he's been in the top 3. It was the end of 2019 where he qualified 3rd. But that was his best of the year, so his best since 2018. There's the update of the points, as I said, with the gap down to 17 now. Nico Muller and Robin Freins, 25 points up for grabs in this afternoon's race for the winner, and René Rast has closed the gap further still, 44 points behind the championship leader now. But with only 3 weekends to go, 6 races to come, he needs to continue to close the gap to give himself a chance going into the season finale at Hockenheim. René Rast, though, exploring the limits of this damp, drying circuit for qualifying, riding the curves where he needed to, and having that late drama where it looked like he might have got onto pole position on the penultimate lap, then had to back off, and then crossed the line with, what was it, 15 seconds to go. He knew that every corner, every turn of the wheel, every braking point mattered, and he had to nail them all, and he did exactly that. René Rast will be absolutely delighted with that pole position, particularly given the circumstances of the championship. So it's he that will start this afternoon's 55-minute plus 1 lap race on pole position. He was on pole position for one of the races here at Zolder last year, and he was also one of the 2 race winners here at Zolder in 2019. Here then is how it's going to shape up for the starting grid for round 13 of the championship. René Rast and Timo Glock are going to share the front row of the grid. We almost had the first BMW on pole position, but Timo Glock second. So Rast and Glock will be the top 2. Freins and Wittmann on row 3. Row 3, Rockenfeller and van der Linde. And then Muller and Newey on row 4, with Auer and de Waal on the 5th row of the grid. OK, then, let's hear from the top man in qualifying, speaking to Verena.
So we're going to talk to René Rast now. By the way, it's the 20th pole for Audi in a row, which is pretty impressive. But you're on pole once again, René, in the last second, if you will. So what's your feeling for the race?
Yeah, it was a very exciting qualifier. Obviously, when the track is wet, it's getting quicker lap by lap, and we knew we have to be the last car on the line to get basically the maximum peak of the track, and I think we managed quite well to be the last car just before the checkered flag came out, and yeah, we managed to put it on pole, which is obviously a big relief, especially Nico P7 and Robin behind, so that's positive, but obviously the race will be different.
Oh yeah, it's going to be tricky, but by then at least it's going to dry up, hopefully. So, and you're in pole, so hey, best position to start, right?
It's the most important 3 points for the championship, and now let's see if it dries up. We think yes, but yeah, obviously race is a different story.
All right, crossing our fingers. Thank you so much, René. Back to the commentator.
Thanks very much, Verena. So René Rast on pole position at Spa, on pole position at Assen, pole position at the Nürburgring. This is his 4th of the season. Robin Freins is up there once again, though, 3rd quickest for Audi Sport Team Audi Sportsline, who lead the team standings. Robin Freins 2nd, of course, in the drivers' standings. And now the best qualifier on average this season. Qualifying average for him is 2nd. He's not been out of the top 3 all year. Timo Glock has not been in the top 3 all year. 5th fastest in qualifying at Lausitzring was his previous best, but he will start 2nd for this afternoon's race. Pole position, though, as I say, for the 4th time, the 17th time in his career. That terrific late lap was René Rast for Audi Sport Team Rosberg. He'll start this afternoon's race with his 2 championship rivals behind him. Back now, though, to Verena to round up the qualifying session.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to a very exciting race this afternoon, and the sun is shining here in Zolder. It's drying up, so let's see. It's definitely going to be a little bit different conditions for the race, and we're really looking forward to it. You do not want to miss it, that's for sure. So see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.